What are you doing?
I just got back from a ride, man. I'm frozen. Oh, God.
Why did you go riding today?
Because we're talking about 5 things to do in the wintertime, and I thought, oh boy, I better go out and try to get a ride in.
I didn't mean 5 things to ride in the wintertime. I meant 5 things to do other than riding in winter weather.
Other than riding.
Other than riding.
Okay, so I put on my mittens and my hat and everything. Okay, well, let's go ahead and let me take some of this off.
Yeah, right, let's do this right.
Okay. Well, I guess this is more of a proper welcome back to the channel. I'm John here, or you can call me Nanook of the North.
Brian.
And Brian, you had this idea today, right?
Well, I guess I didn't tell you. I just said we were going to talk about what to do in the wintertime.
Yeah, so I don't need to worry with my booties on my shoes or my high boots.
We're not doing a toe cover review. That's not what we're doing.
Toe covers, and certainly my lobster mitts were overkill to start this, right? Yeah. And okay, so what are we talking about?
Yeah, well, we live in a relatively nice climate, but it is cold and rainy often. In our winter time, and even when it's not raining, it's cold.
Yeah.
It was in the low 30s every morning when I wanted to go for a ride past week, and so I didn't go for a ride.
But I like the sound of ice under my mountain bike tires. But that's another thing.
We don't get that much ice here.
No.
So I want to talk about things you can do bike related or should be doing bike related in the wintertime other than going out and getting cold.
Well, yeah, look, run down your list here about what you're thinking, because I see the first one here on your notes here, and I like that one.
Yeah, and the first thing is indoor trainer. And I know this might shock you, but I did recently pick up an indoor trainer.
I love it, Brian. I want to give folks out there in YouTube land a thought. Now, there's all kinds of products that you can choose from. The one I have is a Wahoo Kicker Core. It's not the most expensive one on the market, but I typically ride it as a trainer in the wintertime in ERG mode because it forces me to work on stuff that I would not necessarily work on outside. Yesterday, when it was pouring down the rain here before it got cold, I spent a good 40 minutes right at threshold. And you talk about a hard workout, man. That was tough yesterday. But yeah, I like the trainer thing.
Yeah, and I picked mine up used on like Facebook Marketplace or whatever. I spent less than the price of a tire on it because it was secondhand, and it's one of the ones where you leave the tire on. Like you got the fancy one that you.
Yeah, I just have one bike that I bought on the secondary market cheap that I keep on it all the time. It works really well for me.
And I like it too. And it's like for me, like most of my riding, especially on weekends and when the kids aren't in school, I do early in the morning, and it's dark when I want to go for a ride, and it's 30 or 40 degrees, and I just don't have the motivation. It's way more easy to get motivated to go into the garage for an hour than it is to go out and not feel my fingers for an hour. So indoor trainer, there's lots of options, and some people get really into that, and there's like online racing and stuff. And I haven't done any of that yet, but it's a thing, and so it's something you should consider to do in the wintertime is indoor trainer. It's definitely not a new idea.
Yeah. What's the next on your list here, Brian?
Well, yeah, this definitely falls in the you should do category.
Oh, yeah.
Which is you should do some major wintertime maintenance on your bike.
Yep.
And I don't want to step on the bike mechanic's toes here, but there's a lot of things you should be doing to your bike to overhaul, because the wintertime is a good, especially if you're not going to be riding much. Get out all the summertime grease, and I don't know, what would you think you should do specifically wintertime maintenance?
Oh, I really like looking at tires and making sure those tires are in good shape. And if you guys are all out there using tubeless tires, that sealant needs to be replaced. You got to maintain that. You got to clean it out. There's stuff that you need to do with it. Depending on the riding conditions, wow, those brake pads really need to be looked at. And for my hydraulic brakes, one of my wintertime maintenance things, if I'm not out, doing some serious riding, is I'm doing a brake bleed on those bikes too. So there's a couple ideas for you. Looking at your tubeless setup, looking at your brakes. And it's good use of time. Yeah, it really is a good use of time.
And if you really like to tinker like I do, it's a good time to take apart your headset, clean some bearings, re-grease your bearings, maybe take a look at your bottom bracket. It depends on how dirty you want to get. But if you don't do it, you should definitely take it into the shop and have them do it.
Absolutely. And gosh, some of those level one service packages are really inexpensive, especially if you don't have the gear like we have to be able to do some of that fancier stuff like, brake maintenance. Cool. Oh, what's next on your list, partner?
Yeah, so this is maybe two different things, but we'll lump it together. You're supposed like a good thing to do if you got some time. It sunsets at 4:45. Look at next year and figure out what you want to do. And by look at what you want to do is like, do you have training goals? Do you have health goals? Do you have, I don't know, whatever other goals you might set around your bike, maybe mental health goals. Or also, what rides you want to do this coming year.
And Brian, that's what I'm gonna share with you guys in a couple weeks. I've got my big calendar that I set out, and it really helps me stay on track. I want to put in the major events that I'm not calling them races anymore. The major events. It takes a lot of the pressure off.
There you go. Okay.
The major events that I want to use and I want to do next year, and it helps me look at my travel schedule and see, okay, where do I have to be, and what's my lead up going to be, because I know my level of fitness for those events, and how I can plan for those. I think that's a good idea. Yeah, like goal setting.
Cool. Yeah. And so the next one. Bike upgrades. Plan some bike upgrades.
Bike upgrades. Oh, this kind of ties back into maintenance. Yeah.
I mean, it's sort of maintenance, but it's upgrades. Do you think you need a new wheel set?
Oh, there you go.
Maybe when you're doing your maintenance, you notice that your cassette's getting kind of worn. Mm-hmm. Should you maybe get a newer, better, fancier cassette? And this also can tie back to the goal setting. Is if you know that. You're going to do whatever, these 6 events and the entry fee, and are you going to have extra cash for a new set of wheels? Maybe not. And so you could tie that back with your planning and what maintenance or what upgrades you're going to do this year, and figure out which ones you got to pick and choose from in your budget. Yeah.
Well, and the last thing I'm going to suggest here on this list of 5, just go out and ride and have some fun. It's not a time, you saw me all bundled up. Boy, I tell you what, Brian, I was setting no PRs today, man. It was like, okay, I am shivering. I'm just going to go out here to stay warm. But I enjoy my time outside and on the bike. And whenever I get a little break in that weather, even if it's cold, if it's not just a monsoon rainstorm, I get out there and ride.
You know what I find is the worst part about the indoor trainer? When you look at the forecast and it's going to rain all day. Mm-hmm. So you get out in the garage in the morning and you do just a hard workout.
Yes.
And then the sky clears out about noontime. And the whole afternoon is just wonderful weather.
Yeah, I get that.
But you're already toast from your trainer ride. That's the big downside to indoor trainer.
That's the downside.
So those are 5 things that you should do. And I've got a challenge though. One more bonus, a bonus challenge.
Tell me the challenge.
The challenge is build a bike.
Build a bike.
Build a bike. So, wintertime is a great time to build a bike. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean you buy a brand new, $10,000 bike and have it shipped to you and you put it together. I'm talking like find a frame used, find some components used, and put it together. The nice thing about it is if it doesn't work, it's not your only bike. Yeah. But you're going to learn a lot of good bike mechanic maintenance skills.
And I'll go back. I like that bonus one there too, that number 6, because I see a lot of the comments from our friends out there in YouTube land, commenting on building up the bikes and asking you questions about where'd you find that part, how'd you go about doing this. I think there's a lot of good learning that goes on in that too, and it's kind of fun to make your own thing. Yeah.
Cool. I mean, everything I know about bikes I pretty much learned by building bikes.
Trial and error.
And YouTube.
And YouTube, there you go. And borrowing some of my tools.
And borrowing
tools. Great. Well, I hope this was entertaining and gave you maybe some 5 or 6 things to think about as you approach the poor weather for the year. And in the meantime, go out and do something. Ride.
Have fun.
And keep the rubber side down. And by the way, when you fall over in the snow, it doesn't hurt.
It doesn't hurt much.
That is from personal experience. Okay, see you next time, folks. Bye, y'all.